Every AI tool runs on one company's chips. Nobody planned this, not even Nvidia. In 2004, researchers found gaming cards had power. Nvidia built free software called CUDA to unlock it. It taught CUDA at universities for 15 years. When AI exploded, 4 million developers knew CUDA. The CUDA gamble built a $3 trillion empire. Right now, every company building AI, even Nvidia's biggest rivals, pays Nvidia before they build anything. It got there by giving away its best technology for free. But before we get to how the gamble paid off, you need to understand how far it has actually gone. Because the numbers are almost impossible to believe. You have probably never bought a single Nvidia product. You have used one today anyway. Here is what Nvidia actually is now. In fiscal year 2025, Nvidia generated $130.5 billion in total revenue. Gaming brought in $11.35 billion of that. Data centers brought in $115 billion. 88% of Nvidia's entire business now comes from selling chips to companies building artificial intelligence. That is not a side hustle. That is the entire company flipping in real time. The graphics cards are still made. They still sell. They are now 8.7% of the company. Every time you use ChatGPT, there is an Nvidia chip making it possible. Every image you generate, every voice assistant you speak to, all of it runs on Nvidia hardware. And almost nobody who uses those tools knows the company making the chip started by selling graphics cards for video games. Wall Street noticed long before most people did. In just 2 years, Nvidia's data center revenue did something almost no analyst expected. It did not grow. It went vertical. Investors who had spent a decade valuing Nvidia as a cyclical gaming stock had to relearn what kind of company they were looking at in real time while the stock moved. But how did a gaming chip company end up owning the infrastructure of the AI revolution? The answer starts with a bet that nearly killed Nvidia. CUDA was Nvidia's bet that gaming chips could do far more than render games. It let scientists run massive calculations on hardware built for graphics. At the time, this was almost a joke inside the industry. Scientific computing ran on expensive, specialized machines built for exactly that purpose. Nobody serious used a gaming chip for it. In 2006, Jensen Huang added software that could turn every Nvidia card into a supercomputer. Gamers did not want it, would not pay. Stock crashed from $8 billion to $1.5 billion. His board called him reckless. He kept teaching it free for 15 years. Then researchers trained an AI on 2 cards. It beat everything. That AI system was called AlexNet. It did not just win. It embarrassed every other AI system that existed. It happened at a competition called ImageNet, built to test how well machines could recognize images. Every serious lab on Earth entered. Nvidia's cards, running CUDA, did not win by a small margin. They rewrote what the entire field thought was possible in a single afternoon. But here is the part that makes Nvidia's position unbreakable. It is not the chips. Google built its AI chips. So did Amazon and Microsoft. None of them dislodged Nvidia. Not because Nvidia's chips are better, because leaving Nvidia means rewriting every line of code 4 million developers wrote. Switching means retraining an industry. The moat was never silicon. It is knowledge, and it lets Nvidia charge whatever it wants. That gap is worth real money. It lets Nvidia charge a gross margin of 74 to 75%. Because when you have no real choice, the price of access is whatever the provider decides. Every company that tried to build a rival ecosystem ran into the same wall. It is not enough to build a faster chip. You have to convince millions of engineers to abandon tools they already trust, mid-career, with deadlines that do not wait for anyone to relearn their job. But here is the part of this story almost nobody tells. This unbreakable company nearly did not survive its first decade. In 1993, 3 engineers sat at a Denny's diner in San Jose and wrote Nvidia's business plan on a napkin. Jensen Huang, Curtis Priem, Chris Malachowski. They had $40,000 and a belief that the future of computing ran through graphics. They nearly went bankrupt before proving it. Nvidia's early years were a graveyard of nearly failed products. One entire generation of chips shipped broken, forcing the company to survive on inventory nobody could sell. Employees joked that Nvidia had 30 days left on a loop for most of the 1990s. The closest call came in 2000, during a brutal legal battle with Microsoft over the original Xbox chip contract. Nvidia had won the deal. It should have saved them. Instead, Microsoft pushed to renegotiate pricing after signing. The fight nearly finished Nvidia. By the end of that fight, cash was so tight that survival, not growth, was the only conversation inside the company. Employees watched their stock options sit near worthless for years. That kind of pressure does not build cautious companies. It builds companies willing to bet everything, because everything already feels lost. They survived on a razor edge, betting that graphics processing and scientific computing were the same problem wearing different clothes. They were right. In January 2023, Nvidia was worth $300 billion. By 2024, it had crossed $3 trillion. At its peak, it touched $3.6 trillion. Briefly, the most valuable company on Earth. The three engineers at that diner never once discussed artificial intelligence. They discussed parallel processing. It turned out to be the same conversation. But underneath all of that success, there is a risk so significant it keeps the people who understand it awake at night. Nvidia does not manufacture a single chip. One company makes them all, TSMC in Taiwan. Taiwan makes over 90% of the world's most advanced chips. No alternative exists for years. If TSMC stops, every AI model and data center stops. On pause. Nvidia is worth $3.6 trillion. The factory sits in the Taiwan Strait. The chips are not even finished there. The packaging that turns them into a working product happens almost entirely in Taiwan too. There is no backup for that step either. Every government that depends on modern AI, whether they built the model or just use one, is quietly dependent on a strip of water between Taiwan and mainland China staying calm. Nobody voted for that arrangement. It simply happened, one manufacturing decision at a time, over 30 years. Every company that tried to unseat Nvidia is still paying Nvidia. The world knows the trap it is in, and it cannot get out. Because here is what Nvidia actually built. A software tool that accidentally became the language of artificial intelligence. 4 million developers who cannot leave without rebuilding everything they know. 88% of the AI chip market. A gross margin of 74 to 75%. And a manufacturing dependency on one island that nobody has solved. Every company building AI right now, Google, Microsoft, Amazon, Meta, OpenAI, pays Nvidia before they build anything. Not because they want to, because there is no road into AI that does not pass through Nvidia first. That is not a technology company. That is a toll booth. And the toll is 74% of every dollar spent on AI infrastructure. The entire AI industry spent hundreds of billions on compute last year. Before a single engineer was paid, before a single model was trained, the first check went to Nvidia. Every time. Think about what that actually means for a moment. Every chatbot that loses money, every startup burning venture capital to train a model nobody has proven will make money back. All of it still has to clear the same toll booth first, whether the business behind it ever works or not. If the AI boom slows down, Nvidia does not necessarily slow down with it. It already got paid. For now. So go back to that Denny's napkin. 3 engineers, $40,000. A company nobody believed in. Nobody at that table knew about ChatGPT. Nobody knew about large language models or the data centers that would one day consume more electricity than some countries. They just knew that parallel processing was powerful and underused. Now, every time you use any AI product, every search, every chatbot, every generated image, every voice that answers when you speak, there is an Nvidia chip somewhere making it possible. In a data center you will never see. Built on a software tool taught at universities for free. Made in a factory on an island nobody can replace. The company that started selling graphics cards for video games is now the infrastructure the modern world runs on. Nobody planned any single piece of this. Not the researchers who noticed cards could compute. Not the professors who taught it for free because nobody else wanted it. Not the board that called the bet reckless. Every piece of the empire was an accident that somebody refused to abandon. And it got there by accident. This is the markup.